allow me to tell you a story of a coin that no one knew existed, lost to time, and found its way back to the world. Imagine that the year is 1824 or thereabouts. Picture Worcester on a wet morning, scaffolding up, old St. Clement's Church coming down stone by stubborn stone. A labourer named Jeffreys, hands chapped, eyes sharp, spots a flash inside the rubble. Not a nail, not a brooch, a disc. He pockets it the way you or I might pocket a lucky penny. Enter Andrew Ball, coal dealer of Severn Stoke, boots black, conscience clean, always with an eye for a bargain. Jeffreys shows him the glint. Ball lays down 5 shillings and takes the mystery home. By the half, Elizabeth Ball does what careful wives have always done, washes off the years. The piece was darker before, she would later say, after the mud gives way to an impossible old-fashioned gold coin. Now, it's not a curiosity, it's a whisper. A whisper that travels quickly to Birmingham, there in the bright clink and ticking world of Bull Street, where we meet Thomas Manning, a jeweler trade middleman, the type of fellow who knows which counter has cash and which proprietor has curiosity. Ball passes the piece swiftly to Manning for a swift 10 shillings. Manning, with that professional shrug that says, "Oh, you'll never believe what walked into the store today," strolls over to Mr. Allport, a watchmaker, buyer of oddities, prince of pawns. The price? 13 shillings and 2 pennies. The coin then settles in Allport's window, the way unusual things do, waiting for the right kind of fool, or the right kind of believer. And here now is our believer. After a false start, Thomas Henry Spurrier, young solicitor, collector in training wheels, and the man who would first sniff, then, I'd like to imagine, quoting Roger Rudding's Annals of the Coinage of Great Britain and its Dependencies. Why, Saxons never minted gold coins, after all, and then walked away. But that whisper now became an itch inside his head and stuck there, and could not be ignored. And second thoughts, after all, are stronger than first opinions. He comes back, looks again, and this time he listens to what the metal is trying to say. He pays £10, real money, for a rumour, and carries it off, not as a trinket, but as a case. Because Spurrier, after all, is a solicitor. The gossip becomes a record. Ball swears to Jeffreys and the 5 shillings, Manning to his 10 shillings, Allport to his 13 and 2, Elizabeth to her cleaning, and then a tireless antiquary named Jabez Allies flips through parish records and confirms that the church came down, and I quote, about 13 years before. Suddenly, the coin has a footprint. It has a voice. It has a time and a place. That's not just provenance. That's a little gold coin walking out of church rubble through coal dust and shop bells into history. Anyway, on we go. Now, the real drama begins. As in 1837, Thomas Spurrier presents the coin to the Royal Numismatic Society, positing that he has discovered a new gold penny from Edward the Confessor, something that was completely unknown up to that point. Imagine the scene. The coin is carried into a room full of serious faces and sharper quills. J.Y. Ackerman, a prominent dealer, author, and patron saint of raised eyebrows, takes one look and splashes an entire bucket of scholarly cold water over everything. We can almost hear him saying, "Carl Wilhelm Becker," he muses, invoking the era's boogeyman of coin forgers, known to have masterfully forged both ancient and medieval coins, could have made such a thing. Curtain half drawn, applause from all the skeptics. But across the table, though, sits Edward Hawkins of the British Museum, the sort of connoisseur who can read a coin die like a diary. He squints, traces the portrait of King Edward on the coin, its lips cut as two fine incised lines, notes the hollowed-out cheeks, the collar-struck edge, and compares the workmanship to the museum's silver pennies of Edward. This, his look says, walks and talks like the same workshop. He does frown at the spelling of the moneyer's name. Lyfink, I do not recollect, he murmurs, because in the museum trays that he's more familiar with seeing Lefink. But this is the 11th century. Spelling wobbles like a thatched roof in a breeze. I and Y swap places all the time. Today we know that the same money is spelled with an I, Y, U, and EO on different coins. What wins him over, however, isn't the letters, but the handwriting, the style of the thing. It's the handwriting of the die cutter, if you will, which he recognizes like a signature. He declares that it appears to be contemporaneous. Around 2 then goes to the coin. Anyway, arguments smoldered as they do, but over the years, the technical case for the coin's authenticity only grew steadier. Now from there, we fast forward almost a century. D.F. Allen steps into the frame, and like a calm detective at the end of the second act, in a 1945 article for the British Numismatic Journal, he lays out a case without theatrics, just pure professional numismatics. He declares that the coin was struck with the same King Edward Type 5 penny dies, the familiar Confessor portrait and short voided cross you'd expect, just here struck in gold instead of silver. And the legend? The strange spelling of the moneyer's name? By now, a known quirk of the Warwick Mint of the time, where spelling wanders as much as a cat looking for trouble. The metal tells its truths too. Struck, not cast, clean die work, tidy collared edge, no Georgian or Victorian forgeries seen here. Then out comes the scales. The Anglo-Saxon gold pennies that he can point to weigh 51.5 to 54.5 grains, about 3.34 to 3.53 grams. Our Confessor lands right inside that band at roughly 3.53 grams. So, where is it now? Well, behind glass, exactly where you'd expect. After its tour through great collections and about 150 years, the coin took a quiet bow into the British Museum in 1951, filed, photographed, and labelled in the way institutions do when a riddle has earned its rest. Meanwhile, scholarship kept combing through die studies. In 1965, Ebsworth reaffirmed that no matching Confessor dies have turned up. Annoying, to be sure, but not unusual for a once-off gold striking of silver dies. What has poured out in recent years, though, is silver. The same spelling, Lefink, signed Confessor pennies from Warwick and elsewhere keep appearing at auction and in hoards, underlying that the moneyer wasn't a phantom and that the legends on the gold piece fall comfortably within the mint's orthographic chaos. Now, since 2009, the British Museum has published technical analysis, including X-ray fluorescence and scanning electron microscopy of comparable Anglo-Saxon gold, notably the unique Conewolf Mankiss gold coin showing high-purity gold with minimal silver or copper, exactly the sorts of composition we'd expect from early medieval gold issues, rather than concocted modern alloys. That scientific baseline has further legitimated the small, quirky corpus of late Anglo-Saxon gold coins that are known. So, the final verdict? Told properly. The skeptic fired first, the museum, I fired back, and a century and a half later, the forensics nodded along. The coin didn't just survive the drama, it wrote itself a final scene, a unique piece from Edward's expanding cross issue, so minted in Warwick around the years 1050 to 1053, and today at peace in Bloomsbury, which tells the story of the Edward the Confessor gold penny. Now, for comparison, in 2021, a Henry III gold penny was discovered near Devon by a detectorist. It was sold by Spinks of London in 2022 for £648,000, and in 2021 another Henry III gold penny minted circa 1257, this one slabbed by NGC as MS63, was sold at auction for $720,000. And a Coonwolf of Mercia gold mankiss, another detectorist find, was also earlier sold by Spinks for £357,832. Feel free to watch another exciting video about old coins right here next. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.